You know, it's amazing what goes into the devices we use every day, phones, cars, medical tech. But have you ever thought about what keeps the factories making those tiny chips running? Especially when the tech changes so fast.
It's a huge challenge. Today, we're really diving into that, specifically this problem of, well, stuff getting old, obsolescence in semiconductor manufacturing.
Right. It's not just about worn out machines. It actually hits production, bumps up costs, and can really affect a company's success long term.
Absolutely. And we've been looking at some insights from Orbit and Skyline, and they're deep in the semiconductor services world. They really nailed down the pressures here.
Yeah, their work highlights what, three main things?
That's right. First, you've got the big, expensive manufacturing tools themselves just aging.
Mhm.
Then there's the issue that the little parts inside them become unavailable way faster.
Oh, right. The subcomponents have like a much shorter life.
Yeah, significantly shorter.
Yeah.
And finally, older tools just might not cut it performance-wise anymore, leading to more, failures.
Okay. But Orbit and Skyline aren't just pointing fingers at the problems, are they? They've got this legacy tool management thing.
Exactly. They offer actual strategies to tackle this stuff. And that's really what we want to unpack today.
Great. So the goal here is for everyone listening to get a good handle on why obsolescence is such a big deal in chip making, and maybe more importantly, what companies are actually doing about it to keep things running smoothly.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's start with that first one. Aging equipment. Seems simple machines get old. But what's the specific headache in this industry?
Well, the thing is, these legacy tools, they're incredibly complex and built to last years, right? But the companies that made them, the OEMs,
The original equipment manufacturers.
yeah. Horizon Skyline points out their support often fades away. They focus on their newer stuff naturally, so supporting the old gear becomes less profitable for them.
Ah, okay. So the experts who built the machine kind of move on, leaving the factories using the older tech a bit stuck. What does that actually mean day to day?
Well, it means maintenance gets harder, repairs get more expensive.
Yeah.
If you can't easily get the right know-how or the specific part from the OEM,
Downtime gets longer.
downtime stretches out, yeah,
Yeah.
which kills production time.
Hmm.
And finding workarounds, maybe third parties, maybe trying to reverse engineer something that just drives up the cost, it hits efficiency, and ultimately the bottom line.
It sounds a bit like trying to keep a classic car running when the original makers stopped producing parts years ago. You might find a way, but it's going to cost you time and money, and maybe it's not quite perfect.
That's a great analogy. And yeah, Orbit and Skyline really stress that this lack of direct support forces companies into these complex, often pricey alternative solutions.
Right. Which leads nicely into the second point they raised, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Component unavailability.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really tricky. It's often not the whole multi-million-dollar machine failing.
But some small, crucial part inside it.
Precisely. Part that's just not made anymore.
And the info we saw said the life cycle for these subcomponents can be, what, 4 times shorter than the tool itself? That's a massive difference.
It really is. So you have this hugely expensive, fundamentally okay piece of equipment sidelined because the one specific, maybe not even that expensive, part is gone. End of life.
Wow, that seems almost absurd. What does that do?
Well, straight up, it causes production delays.
Yeah.
And in the semiconductor world, everything's connected. So those delays, they ripple out.
Through the whole supply chain.
Yep, affects everyone down the line relying on those chips. And of course, it hits the manufacturer's own return on investment pretty hard.
Like a domino effect, starting from one tiny missing piece, must be incredibly frustrating for manufacturers who've sunk millions into tools that are mostly fine.
Hugely frustrating. And that frustration probably ties into the third challenge too, performance limitations.
Ah, okay. So it's not just breakdowns or missing bits, it's that the older machines sometimes just can't keep up.
Exactly. Chip designs get more complex, production targets keep rising, and older equipment, even if it's running, might just fail more often. Partly wear and tear, partly, like we said, hard to find parts making fixes tricky.
Right. The accumulated stress.
And the result of that,
Yeah.
lower efficiency overall. Less throughput, meaning fewer chips getting made in the same amount of time. It puts a cap on what they can produce.
Which means higher running costs, lower productivity, makes it tough to compete.
Very tough in a market that demands constant improvement.
Okay, so this is quite the picture. Aging tools, losing support, vital parts vanishing, and the machines themselves struggling to perform. Seems daunting.
Yes.
But like we said, Orbit and Skyline aren't just listing problems, they're working on solutions with their legacy tool management. So let's dig into those strategies. First up was comprehensive obsolescence management plans. What's that look like? Proactive, you said.
Yeah, the key is moving away from just fixing stuff when it breaks. It's about spotting potential issues early. They really push for constant monitoring of how the equipment's doing.
Like health checks for machines.
Kind of,
Okay.
yeah. And using predictive analytics, using data to guess when things might fail, and then making strategic plans way ahead of time for parts going end of life.
So looking down the road, seeing the bumps before you hit them, avoids those last-minute scrambles.
That's the idea. The big win is dodging those really costly emergency shutdowns we talked about.
Yeah.
If you know a component's getting old or scarce months in advance.
You've got time to find alternatives, maybe stockpile some parts, plan an upgrade.
Exactly. It allows for a much more controlled, financially sensible way to handle these things that are, let's face it, unavoidable.
Right. It's smart planning versus crisis management. Okay, strategy number 2. Part repair and refurbishment programs. This sounds particularly relevant given the disappearing parts issue.
It really is. Since getting new replacements for older gear is getting harder, Orbit and Skyline have set up ways, sometimes in-house, sometimes with partners, to actually repair and refurbish existing components.
Ah, so giving parts a second life instead of tossing them.
Pretty much. It can seriously extend the lifespan of critical parts. It's a vital stopgap, when a new one just isn't available anywhere.
That makes a ton of sense. Good for the budget, good for reducing waste too. And I imagine if a specific part is super rare, being able to fix the ones you have is critical.
Absolutely critical for keeping production going in some cases. It's more sustainable, and it helps companies get the most out of the money they initially spent on that equipment. Keeps it running longer.
Definitely. Okay, third strategy moves towards improvement. Continuous improvement initiatives. So keeping these older tools up to scratch somehow.
Yeah, you can't totally change an old tool's core design, obviously, but what they focus on is strategically upgrading or retrofitting certain key subcomponents inside the machine with newer compatible tech.
Gotcha. So targeted upgrades on the inside, not replacing the whole massive thing. What does that do for the manufacturer?
By swapping in these better bits, you can see real improvements in how the tool performs, how reliable it is, and importantly, its uptime, how much it's actually running and making chips.
So it lets them keep using their existing expensive core equipment, but still meet today's demands.
That's the goal, making smart upgrades where it counts the most.
That's a clever approach, bridging the old and the new. Now, the final strategy you mentioned felt a bit different. The community of experts. What's that about?
This tackles something really important, but maybe less obvious: the human knowledge gap. As these tools get older, the number of people with deep hands-on expertise to maintain and fix them, well, it shrinks.
Ah, the experts retire or move on, and that knowledge walks out the door.
Precisely. So Orbit and Skyline are actively building this network, this community of experienced folks, engineers, technicians, consultants who can support and, crucially, mentor the newer engineers coming up.
So it's about knowledge transfer, making sure that expertise doesn't just vanish.
Exactly. Capturing that know-how, passing it down, it ensures the skills needed to manage these legacy systems effectively are kept alive in the industry. That mentorship is vital long-term.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, like an apprenticeship for highly specialized, aging tech. And having that network probably helps solve tricky problems faster, too.
That's a likely side benefit, yeah. Collective experience.
So looking at all four, the proactive plans, the repair programs, the targeted upgrades, and this knowledge community, it really feels like a holistic way to tackle obsolescence.
It really is. And Orbit and Skyline emphasize that you kind of need all of it working together. Proactive planning, preventative maintenance, smart improvements, managing the knowledge, collaboration. It's all essential.
And if you don't have that integrated approach...
And then you're looking at those risks we discussed.
Yeah.
Unexpected downtime, higher costs, and just falling behind the competition.
Right. In a market that moves so fast.
Exactly. Without those plans, you're just much more vulnerable to the equipment aging and parts disappearing, which is where something like Orbit and Skyline's legacy tool management really offers value, maintaining continuity, cutting risks, staying competitive.
So yeah, as Kip Tech keeps racing ahead, managing obsolescence isn't just optional housekeeping anymore, is it? It's fundamental for survival.
Absolutely crucial. Planning ahead for aging machines and missing parts seems like the only way to really navigate the industry's challenges, keep producing, and succeed long-term.
And these structured approaches, like the legacy tool management we discussed, offer a path to do that effectively, even with all the rapid changes.
A structured, cost-effective path, yeah. Helps keep the fabs running smoothly.
You know, thinking about it, this whole issue of rapid tech obsolescence, It isn't just semiconductors, is it? We see versions of this everywhere in so many
That's a
industries.
really good point.
And the need for these kinds of proactive, adaptable strategies to manage it, to keep things running, it feels like a lesson that applies way beyond just chip making. Maybe something for all of us to think about in whatever field we're in. How do we handle our legacy systems as things evolve?
That's a very insightful takeaway.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening who's right in the thick of it, in the semiconductor world, Orbit and Skyline, they've got over 15 years doing this, a global team.
Right.
They do offer these specific legacy tool management services.
Right.
People can check out their website for the details on that service page, or I believe the contact email is hello@orbitskyline.com if they want to reach out directly.